Okay, perfect. Hey, everybody. Hola, mis amigos. Bienvenue. The reason I say that is because I just got a text saying that somebody sets their alarm every Sunday night in Europe so they can wake up and see us. Like, how cool is that? I love our community, and it's just so exciting that it's a global community these days. Let's get started. I know we have a number of new people. So let's talk about what is this? What are redox signaling molecules? Well, they're in every single cell of your body. And I just learned this fun fact yesterday. I know we have a lot of cells in our body, but did you know that just from the little top crease of your finger to the tip, there's more cells in your fingertip than there are people on the planet. That's incredible to me. And in every cell, you've got mitochondria. Depending on the kind of cell it is, there could be from 200 to 5,000. There's a lot of mitochondria. Mitochondria are the thing that make redox signaling molecules, which is what is in this bottle. Trillions and trillions of redox signaling molecules in here. And so it is a bioreplenishment. It's an exact replication of what your body is making every moment of the day. You could go for maybe 3 weeks without food and maybe 3 days without water, maybe 3 minutes without oxygen. You can't last. You can't survive for 3 seconds without your redox signaling molecules. And as you get older, you're making less and less and less. So you've got a lot when you're little. And then once you get into your 20s, you're making about 10% less every single decade that you age. So right now I'm 56. I should be so depleted of this, but luckily, this is like my best friend. And what it does is it basically empowers your cells to work better and heal faster. It does it in a few ways. It helps your cells communicate better. So it amplifies, it clarifies signals between and within cells. So they're just talking to each other better, kind of wakes up the inner doctor in your cells and makes them go, oh, there's something that we need to handle. It's going to turn on genes for your cardiac system, immune system, inflammatory system, digestive system, hormone modulation. One of the genes it turns on is gene EGR1. And when that happens, all these other things get turned on. One of them, just get a little nerdy for a few seconds, is NRF2 pathway. When that happens, you've got so much glutathione, so much superoxide dismutase. Those are antioxidants. And they just, I'm no longer a germaphobe because I've got this. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to one of my closest friends, Dr. Maureen Hayes. We are so blessed to have her as our featured guest tonight. She's a double board certified doctor. She's a founding member of ASEA's medical board. She's just absolutely brilliant. I think it's a great way to start almost every day by calling her and chatting. And she just every day she educates me, she inspires me, she motivates me. And I can't even tell you how many times I practically fall off my chair laughing because she's hilarious. And so anyway, let's shift the spotlight to you, Maureen. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with all of you. So I'm just sitting here thinking I am totally superfluous. Laura just gave you the entire science of redox and explained it all to you, why you want it. And it's absolutely amazing. I was sitting here thinking, if I have to explain it, I'm just going to tell them it's magic. So it seems like magic. And honestly, 12 years ago, when my family got started with these products, it did seem like magic. We didn't have a lot of answers. So just to kind of take you back a little bit, I am a physician. I'm a medical doctor. I was board certified in anesthesiology and pain management. I'll be boarded for life for anesthesia, but I am kind of semi-retired at this point. We got introduced to this 12 years ago. As I said, in fact, it'll be 12 years the week after Thanksgiving. Excuse me. And it was brought to our attention. Excuse me. My husband, who is also a physician, he's a pediatric anesthesiologist and stem cell researcher, was also in the military and came back from his last tour of duty in Iraq with a huge health issue. And we live in Texas. We live in Galveston, Texas, outside of Houston. He went to MD Anderson, if any of you are familiar, where they gave him really strong medications, radiation, did surgery on him to take care of his problem. And they cured him of his underlying disease, but the treatment left him very compromised. So he went from being an athlete, former marathon runner, still running 8 to 10 miles a day, to literally having to wear oxygen to watch TV. I mean, and he was in his, I think he was about 56, 57 at the time. So huge change in the quality of his life. And, here we were, two doctors thinking, why didn't we know this? And it's a really interesting thing. But you can imagine, what his disease was. It begins with a C. And, people will say to you, well, you had this. So you should be thankful just to be alive. And it's like, yes, we are. We're very grateful, very thankful. We just didn't know that this was going to be what was facing us. We had plans and hopes and ideas about how retirement was going to be and what our life was going to be like in the future. And we'd worked very hard all of our lives. So I say to people, listen, life changes in a second. It's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, my husband was healthy until 6 months ago. And I said, what happened 6 months ago? And she said, well, I got diagnosed with such and such. And I was like, well, okay, that's when they found it, but it had been brewing for years, maybe decades before that. So, and the reason why I bring this up, you guys, is because you may be sitting here right now thinking, oh my gosh, I'm perfectly healthy. I'm great. I get up every morning. I can, go out, I can exercise, I can run a mile, I can do all of everything that I want to do. I feel great. I sleep great. I look great, all of that. Great. Fantastic. I love that. Let's keep it going, because you're only healthy until you get that bad diagnosis. And I've seen this over and over and over with the people that I love. So back to my husband. I was talking to a friend. He and I had been in a different wellness company, a Japanese company that had really state-of-the-art products. They had magnets and infrared and different things that way before anybody had heard of them. And I had left that company and was kind of on a different journey. But he left that company. He was highly successful. And I called him to find out why. And he said, I don't know what to tell you. I've come across a breakthrough. And I said, okay, what is it? And he was telling me about it. He said, it's made from salt water. Now, I mentioned I live in Galveston, Texas. That's an island off of the coast of Texas. I'm surrounded by salt water. And so somebody trying to talk to me about a product that I have to pay for made from salt water was a little bit of a hard sell. Plus, it sounded ridiculous, quite honestly. I was like, okay, you want me to take something made from salt water and it's supposed to have some magical benefits? And he said, I don't know what to tell you, Doc. Here's what I'm hearing. And so he sent me a couple of videos and I watched them, probably just because I liked this guy and I respected him. He was a great businessman. And I found the science to be unbelievably compelling. Now, if you believe in divine inspiration or in, kind of God sparks, if you will, I had called my sister, who is not a doctor, a nurse, a scientist, anything, but she is a medical editor. And she's actually the medical editor of the newsletter or magazine at my medical school, the Medical University of South Carolina. So I'm telling her, this is 12 years ago, I've never even heard the words redox signaling molecules. And I said, Terry Latham has told me about this. Never heard of it. Think he's making it up. She goes, no, I've heard of it. I said, you've heard of it? And she's like, yeah. I said, how would you have heard of it? You didn't hear about this. No. And she said, no, I have. Our medical university just received a $10.5 million COBRA NIH grant to study redox signaling in the body for cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, orthopedics, diabetes, aging, obesity, diabetes, you name it. And I was like, what? So here, my friend, I forgot to mention, his background was in computer sales. So the computer guy knew about redox signaling. My sister, the editor, knew about redox signaling. I had never heard of it. So of course, my ego forced me to do a deep dive, right? And so I started looking into it. I watched the videos he sent, which were all about athletes at the Human Performance Lab up at the Research Triangle at the Appalachian State Human Performance Lab with Dr. David Neiman. And he had shown that athletes taking this product could run further, faster, longer before hitting their what's called a ventilatory threshold or the wall any of you who exercise and you get to that place where you can't, you're not getting enough air, you can't take another step. They could push that out when they were on this product in a very short period of time. So I was like, wow, it must have something to do with oxygenation. My husband has a problem with oxygenation. He's an athlete of sorts. Maybe this will help him. So I ordered the product and I told Terry, I said, look, don't ask me to go to any meetings. Don't ask me to learn a secret handshake. I don't care. Even though I love people and I want to help people have a better quality of life and a better quality of health as a physician, I, at that point, was not willing to put my reputation on the line to talk to people about magical salt water that may or may not do something for them. So I was like, I'm just going to hone in, see if it helps my husband. So we joined and we put everybody on the family on it. My husband, my son, who was 20 years old, and that's a whole nother story. Our pets got it. I went home for Christmas. I got my family to take it, begrudgingly. They didn't really like it. And, I had a girlfriend who, she was a retired ER nurse. Now I'm down in Texas. She's up in Washington State in the Seattle area. And she had had surgery on her wrist a year before. And it was still hurting her. Her hand was swelling up. It was turning colors. Her nails were acting strange. The hair on her hands had gone. Her hand would turn colors and swell up. It was excruciatingly painful. And I said to her, as a pain doctor, I think I know what's going on. You need to get to a pain clinic. But in the interim, because she was part of this wellness company that we were, the Japanese one, I said, Terry Latham has told me about this product. Y'all, this is doctor to nurse. I want you to hear how I shared this. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works, but you've tried everything else. You might as well try this. And if you don't like it, you can get your money back. And frankly, I don't care. That was my rousing endorsement for ASEA. So imagine my surprise when I get a call from Terry about 2 weeks later, and he's like, hey, your friend Joan joined. I said, Joan who? He said, Joan from Seattle. I was like, no, she wouldn't do that. He said, her name's on the roster. You may want to take a look, maybe call her. And so I called her. I said, Joan, because I didn't send her any information. She literally called the company and got signed up under me. And I was like, did you join? Are you taking this stuff? And she said, you're not going to believe this. I ordered the product, I drank it, and I soaked my hand in it. Nobody told her to do that. She said, I soaked it for 45 minutes. The swelling went down. The color returned to normal. I could make a fist. I could write with my hand. I slept through the night. My husband says I haven't looked this good in months. Yes, I signed up. And I told Masami about it. So, and here's kind of a funny story. She admitted that she soaked her hand in it before she drank it. And she said, I just want to tell you, it was disgusting. It was putrid. I said, wait, let me understand this. You soaked your hand in it for 45 minutes and then you drank the solution that your hand was in? And she said, well, my hand was clean. I was like, I don't care. That's kind of gross. And she said, it tasted really bad. I said, I'm sure maybe it was pulling toxins out. I don't know. So y'all, do not do that. And what I said to her is, thank God you weren't soaking your feet in it. But you know what? That's the one and only time I've heard of anybody doing that. But we do have people soaking it. Now we have the gel. So you don't even have to worry about that. You can use the gel, you can smear it on. Thank you, Laura. You can drink the solution, use the gel, and we have other products that will help as well. So anyway, Joan shared with our friend Masami. Now, Masami is on here. Masami is Japanese. She was in Japan. She got diagnosed with a really bad disease. She came back to the States, had the testing done again, and they said, yes, you absolutely have that. They opened her up from stem to stern. They took away a third of her liver and they thought it was going to be bad. It turned out to be benign. But she was on this product. And Masami, I don't know if you want to jump on and tell your story yourself. You probably do it a little bit better justice. In any case, she was drinking a lot of this stuff. 4 days after being open, literally from stem to stern, she's on the beach walking with her husband and dog. I'm like, I started my medical career as a surgeon. I was like, what are you doing? Get in bed. This is insane. I mean, that was a huge incision, y'all. There's no way she should have been out of bed. And she healed so incredibly fast. And then she started talking to people like she was on a mission from God. Now,
And then also, like 4 days after surgery, she decides to stain her back deck. So her friend from Japan is coming to visit, and she wanted it nice looking.
yeah, insane, absolutely insane. So anyway, I was in training. I'd gone back into training for something called age management medicine. I wanted to empower people to take control of their own health, and teach them how to optimize things in their lifestyle, in how they were eating, supplementing, whatever. And so I was doing that, and I wasn't really paying attention. I wasn't thinking about this as a business. I really wasn't going to share with anybody. But what was so funny is my husband was able to wean off of his oxygen. So we went from 2 liters of oxygen a minute just to sit and watch TV. And y'all, when I say he was compromised, I mean that to open up the refrigerator door, and I'm looking over here because my refrigerator's over there. It was like a workout for him. You know that you don't think about it, but there's like a vacuum or a suction that you have to overcome. He would struggle with that. It was just awful to see this man who was when he was over in Iraq, he was doing P90X and yoga and all sorts of stuff. I mean, he was quite the athlete, and now he was like a 90-year-old man. He was so weak and just so compromised, and it was really, really sad. And I thought, gosh, as two doctors, if we missed this, we didn't we didn't expect this, and I thought, gosh, what about regular people? They must be devastated when stuff like this happens. So anyway, it took about 6 weeks, but suddenly my husband is doing burpees. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like this crazy thing where you're doing like a push up and you jump up and clap your hands. So you're going to the floor and then popping back up. I mean, to this day, to be honest with you, I've never tried one, and I drink a lot of ASEA. But I was like, what are you doing? I mean, he was doing cardiac and pulmonary rehab and just incredible. And then the truck came and took all those green cylinders, those oxygen cylinders away. And I was like, wow, because they literally evaluated him for a lung transplant. Now, funny thing is that my husband's research is on lungs, on growing lungs. And in fact, his lab has been able to grow a pair of lungs outside of the body and transplant them into a pig. And it's been written up. They were featured on the cover of Science Translational Medicine. Big deal, huge thing. Actually sent an experiment up with SpaceX up to the space station. So really cool thing. And he was saying, I feel like I'm trying to grow my own lungs. And at that point, we were like, well, that's probably a really good idea because things are not looking good. And then here we are 6 weeks into it with this ridiculous magical salt water that we don't want to tell people about. And the guy is weaned off of his oxygen and exercising. And, I was like, what? Now, I had just gotten my certification in age management, and I was supposed to hang a shingle, start seeing patients. And I said to my husband, no, what was amazing was here was Joan, here was Masami, here was the people that they were talking about. Here's my husband having this miraculous response. My son, who just quickly, because I think it's important, he was 20, right before my husband went through all of this. My mom had gone through a life-threatening disease, and she lived in Atlanta, and she got treated in Atlanta and Charleston, where my family is. And, she'd gone through very harsh medications and surgery and all. And they said, oh, you're one of the lucky ones. You're cured. Go live your life. And she was sick and treated for about a year, maybe 2 years. And I was living in Charleston at that time. My husband was over in Iraq. And he comes home. She finishes her treatment. They're like, hey, you're good to go. Go live your life. My husband comes home. It's my son's high school graduation. And he's like, we have to go to Houston. We're in Charleston. He said, we have to go to Houston tomorrow. I was like, why? And he said, we have to go to MD Anderson. And I was like, oh my God. I knew what that meant. So my mom gets done. My husband is sick. We go back to Houston. He goes through his surgery, all of that jazz. He rings the bell on February 14th. That was 2012. My mom calls. That was February, Valentine's Day. She calls on March 1st. Her disease is back with a vengeance. And so I was like, oh my God, Mom, come here. I'll take care of you. We'll get you into that same hospital, get you taken care of. Somebody calls me about this product, about this, ridiculous, magical salt water. She wasn't a physician. She wasn't a scientist. She wasn't anything. I knew her, but I didn't know her well, not like I knew Terry when I came back around. And I said, you know what, thank you for sharing. I've got this. This is my mother. I'll take care of it. And I literally, I didn't even look at the stuff that she sent me, y'all. I call it my period of ignorance and arrogance. I thought as a physician that I probably knew better. And I was trying to get my mom to go to the south of Spain to Dr. Budwig's clinic where they did some alternative stuff because she had already been through all the chemo and all of that jazz. And she's so funny. When she found out they did coffee enemas, she was like, there's worse things than dying. I was like, you like coffee. It's just a different route, you'll be okay. But we never made it there. She passed away. And I'll tell you what, I was devastated. This is somebody that, my mom was like my best friend. We were incredibly close. And it was a double whammy because as a physician, I thought I should have been able to save her. I thought I would have the answers and I didn't, and I didn't know as much as I do now, but I certainly, didn't look at it at ASEA or redox signaling molecules as part of the plan. So when they came back into our life, it was just, gosh, y'all, that was June and they came back in November, just a few months later. And I really was betting against them. I was really hoping. This sounds terrible. Not that I don't love my husband. I absolutely do. But I didn't want to have to live with the guilt of not having used them or tried them for my mom. And to this day, I don't know. I don't know what they would have done for her or if she would have even drank them. She didn't want to take a coffee enema. She probably wouldn't drink the pool water. Don't know. But I really would have loved the opportunity to try. And I let that drive me. So back to the story. Here we are. My son had just started college. He was out in California at USC. And I got a call from the security guards that he was having panic attacks and depression and whatnot. And they were concerned, not anything, not a call you ever want to get as a parent. And, my son had always been pretty stable before then. So, I literally could not handle one more thing on my plate. So I flew out to California. I withdrew him from all of his classes. I brought him home. And I said, we're gonna get this sorted out. We're gonna get you into therapy. Here he was. His grandma died. His dad comes home. He's got this horrible disease. His dad had been in Iraq and the war and all. I mean, it was a lot for a kid. And so when the product came, I put everybody on it. I had no idea what to expect. I really thought that it was a scam and we were going to be getting our money back. So I just put everybody on it, including our dogs and cats. And the very first person who responded to it was Christopher. He had been diagnosed with something. And y'all, it's not a medical company. We don't diagnose, treat, cure, prevent anything. We just empower the body to do, what it does. But his therapist had said he had something called existential angst, something that affects mostly men, mostly boys, usually high intelligence. And it's where they come up with it's like nothing matters. Here are people he loves are dying or having life-threatening diseases. And it just seems like it's not worthwhile. We got him on the product and y'all, my husband said he went from Eeyore to Tigger, 180-degree personality change. Unbelievable. We were like, who is this? This is before we had felt anything. Now we were just taking 2 ounces twice a day, like it said on the back of the bottle, even though we were, older, not old, but older. And probably had, our mitochondria were suffering, like crawling along. And of course, like Laura said, it's the mitochondria make these. And not only do you lose mitochondria because of age, but the more toxic your environment is, excuse me, the bigger hit your mitochondria take. And of course, my husband, totally toxic from all the medications he was on. So, we get Christopher on it. He's the first one to respond. Then my husband's doing the burpees. Me, I don't really have health challenges. But for me, I was in a funk. I knew why I was in a funk, but I'm Southern. I took to bed, Donuts were my we eat. We were comfort eaters here in the South. And so, it was just awful. And I'm drinking this stuff and I'm eating my donuts. And then one day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I can get a deep breath, gosh. And like, it's like birds are singing and colors are brighter. And I'm like, what is happening? And here comes Tigger bouncing into the room. And my husband's like, I could cry. I'm so happy. And I called the company and I said, have you ever heard of anybody having a mood elevation? And they said, all the time. I'm like, well, what's that all about? And they're like, we don't know. I was like, oh, okay. So, I was like, well, maybe it's because we feel like we have more energy or whatnot. But it's funny. We went to Disney for Christmas. My whole family. It was a tradition that we used to go to Disney World after Christmas. And Christopher had been staying with my brother Timmy, who was a vegan and a bodybuilder and didn't believe in all this. So we're standing in front of the castle. And I don't know how many of you have been to Disney World during Christmas. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it's draped in all these crystals and it's lit up in colors and it's just breathtaking. And Christopher is standing there and he's like, it's beautiful, but I know it's not real. And like the whole family turns and says, are you taking your ASEA? And he's like, no, I've been at Uncle Timmy's. I haven't taken. We made him go to the hotel and drink an entire bottle. And the next day he said, thank you so much. I feel so much better. And he was, for the rest of the trip, he was happy and energetic and optimistic. And y'all, he is now 32 and he does not ever miss his ASEA. I mean, he takes it every day. It just he went back to school. He went back to college. He graduated with honors. We felt like it was a perfect investment for him to be happy and focused and just feeling good about himself, sleeping well, energy wise, focus, you name it, and he graduated with honors. It's amazing. And now he has an amazing life. He's married. His wife drinks it. She has her family on it. I mean, it just spreads. So, you guys, I never expected to share this, but when I saw what it was doing for people, I felt as a physician, as a healer, to have something in my hands that is this incredibly powerful and 100% non-toxic. Who am I not to let people know about it? So what I decided is that I'm going to educate people. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to make them aware of it. Whether or not they use it is 100% up to them. It's free will, right? So, that's what I did. I became a Redox educator, if you will. And that was back, about 11 and a half years ago, because I sat out for about 6 months. I'm going to tell you guys, don't sit out. Don't do your own due diligence. Absolutely. But get this on everybody around you, get it on your pets and get people on enough, because it was 6 weeks before we really noticed anything. We were on a smaller amount, not enough for people who were in their 50s. Honestly, you need to be on a little bit more, at least for the first month. And I remember I called Terry, even though these people were having great things, we weren't experiencing anything. So I said to Terry, I think this is all placebo. I think this is, I don't know what's going on with these other people, but I think this is a scam and I want my money back. And he said, well, you're past the 30 days. Too bad. Keep drinking. I was not amused by that at the time, but honest to God, it's the best thing that could have happened to me, because our blessing was 6 weeks in. And honest to God, it was a blessing. I have my husband back. I have other family members. Remember Uncle Timmy, the one who didn't believe in it, the vegan bodybuilder, la, la, la. He was too healthy to take ASEA until he got a bad diagnosis. And then he started drinking it like it was his job. And he is fully back to health. He's living his best life. And he will never be without ASEA. And so that's how I feel about sharing this with people. It's a gift. People need to know about it. Everybody has free will. You can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't make them drink. That's okay. As long as they know about it, as long as you've done your job and let people know that this is available, that this is an option, that this is something foundational, a bioreplenishment, an absolute hack to make everything else they do for themselves work better, then your job is done. Some people, it's going to break your heart. Some people are not going to listen. Some people are going to choose not to use it. And I've had people very, very close to me say, no, thank you. I'm good. I'm following my doctor's orders. We've got it covered, la, la, la. and then they perish. And I just cry because I know that had they been open, but you can only do so much. You can't force somebody, you guys, and it's not your role. You are messengers like angels. So, anyway, I love it. I now have touched lives, thousands of lives all over the world. And it has been personally and professionally so incredibly gratifying. And I wish, I used to think, when I was practicing medicine, why doesn't everybody want to do this? This is the greatest thing on earth. Such an honor to be entrusted with people's lives. And especially when I was cutting them open, I was like, oh, they haven't even seen these organs. I'm seeing parts of them they've never even seen. I mean, it was just an amazing rush. And I'd be like, doesn't everybody want to do this? No, they don't. They don't want to be a doctor. They don't want to be a surgeon. They don't want to be an anesthesiologist. And some people don't want to share great news. But let me tell you what, if you're on here and you're listening to it, then you are one of the angels who's been touched to share this with other people. And I hope you will, because it's the best thing I've ever done. So thank you, Laura. Back to you.
Thank you. It's the best thing I've ever done. And if it weren't for you, I'm not sure I'd be here. If it weren't for you to like get over that state of arrogance and ignorance, as you say, if you hadn't told Joan, who told Masami, who told her husband's best friend, who was my doctor over on the East Coast, who said, I got this stuff. I don't like how it tastes. It's about to expire and I don't know if it works. So it's not much better than the endorsement you gave Joan. But gosh, and now look at everybody that we're helping. So thank you. You said a couple things that made me want to ask more. You just keep saying it's salt water from Salt Lake City. I live on an island. Can you please explain how you can't make this in your kitchen sink? It's really not salt water. Might start that way, doesn't end up that way.
It's so funny because we knew nothing in the beginning. We had no idea. And in fact, one of the people that we revere, Jerry White, had written an entire op-ed about how this was worthless. You could take water and put Himalayan salt in it and shake it and make your own. No, none of that is true. They start with salt water. They start with pristine salt. It's IV grade salt, like salt that you could put in a saline. There's nothing else. It's not mineral salt. It's not, Himalayan or Celtic or Mediterranean, nothing like that. It has no minerals in it, no metals, no anything. It's pure NaCl. Then the water they use is they do reverse osmosis. So they take everything out and they desalinate it too. They're getting rid of any kind of ions that are in there. And then they run currents through it. So, you've always heard that you should not, use a hair dryer when you're in a bathtub. And I don't know why people always say don't use a toaster. Like, I don't have a toaster in my bathroom. But if you threw a toaster in a bathtub, you could electrocute somebody. Well, when water is really pure, it doesn't hold an electrical charge. It will not conduct electricity. That's the ions in it. That's the minerals in it. Minerals and metals react with redox signaling molecules. So they take incredibly pure down to parts per billion to, in some cases, parts per trillion is how clean this is. So it's just H2O and NaCl. So they make a very pristine saline brine with that. The salt molecules dissolve in the water and form a saline. Then what they do is they take an electrical current that is has a noble metal on the anode and cathode, and they drive energy into these molecules. What happens is that it causes these molecules to break apart and recoalesce as these stable redox signaling molecules. Now, this is potential energy. It's like pushing a big boulder up a hill, and it stays at that top until you kind of kick it, and then it rolls downhill, right? It goes from potential to kinetic energy. It's got potential energy. This energy is unleashed when it touches organic matter. So when you put it in your mouth or it touches your skin with the gel, whatever, it goes to work. It goes from potential, like a battery, where it's saved energy, to actually imparting that energy to your cells. Once it goes through those cell membranes, and they're little teeny tiny molecules, they're absorbed immediately. They don't need a proton pump or any of that. They go directly through the cell membrane where they start turning on different processes. It's very heavy into science with I think Laura already talked about NRF2 and keep one and all of that, and how that gets released. The NRF2 goes into the nucleus of the cell where it starts to increase transcription of different genes. Those genes turn on different pathways. EGR1, one of the genes that Laura referred to that's extremely well studied, has 15 known pathways. We're doing a deep dive on one of them. Studies have come out recently showing how NRF2 is increased by up to 40%, and that increases the production of master antioxidants. And now we have further studies with these different universities. These universities have come to us to do research, asked if they could research our products, and the company said, yes, this is very rare, you guys. This is not us doing our own. This is people from outside our company coming to us to see if they can do studies on it. We have studies being done at the University of Bath in the UK and studies being done at Western Sydney University in Australia. One is doing them on the gel. One of them is doing it on the liquid. These are the same product in two different forms, and they're coming up with the same results, which is really absolutely amazing. And they've learned that they can tweak the molecules. And one of the things that we'll be talking about soon, it'll be launched in early of 2025, is our first targeted redox signaling molecule, which means that when we talk about this, our flagship, or Laura has it in the big blue bottle, we take this and the body tells it what to do with it, where to go, where it needs it. This new molecule is going to have a totally different set of benefits to it. It's going to have a different role. It's going to increase different pathways. It's still going to work in the NRF2, but there's a specific pathway that it's going to turn on that has known benefits to it. Actually, when I was reading about it, it's got some benefits that we haven't been talking about that every one of us on here wants, and we're going to want it for the people that we love. So stay tuned for that. And understand that this company, we are a research and development company, truly. Now, we allow everybody to play in the sandbox. And if you, find value in this, you can share it and you can earn an income from that. But the truth of the matter is our company is dedicated to helping people have a better quality of health and a better quality of life. And they're dedicated to doing science because it's the legacy of our founder to get this information out to people so that they can experience it. And like I said earlier, as a physician who has written hundreds, if not thousands, of prescriptions, all coming with side effects, some of them coming with black boxes. And if you don't know what that means, there are some medications that we prescribe that can cause horrible, life-threatening side effects. They usually give that a black box. This has no side effects, just side benefits. Can't hurt anybody. It's amazing. So we're just empowering the body to turning on, as Dr. Lee Osler would say, turning on the inner doctor. So it's not salt water anymore. It really is saltwater magic.
It would be great if they had the third ingredient here. So it says water and sodium chloride. It should say energy too, but
you know what, it should, but if you look on a loaf of bread, it doesn't mention baking, right? I mean, you start off, think about it, you guys, what does it say on the loaf of bread? It says like enriched flour, water, butter, milk, whatever goes into bread. They leave out the baking part, but isn't that really where the magic happens? You start with goop, you infuse that energy into it, which is baking. There's different forms of energy that bakes it. It turns into something totally different. Same thing here. We're kind of baking it, if you will.
Yeah. So the magic is not really in the ingredients. The magic is in the process. And I love that analogy that you shared, Maureen. Another analogy I enjoy is think of like diamonds and graphite and pencils. They're both 100% carbon atoms, but the way you arrange those atoms yields a different product. So thank you, Maureen. And then I want to ask you, How many countries are we in right now?
Oh gosh. I
Keeps getting,
think,
it's more and more and more.
yeah, we've just added a couple of more. So we were in 33, 34, 35, 30. I think we're in 36 right now because we just opened up it's called Macau outside. It's I think it's an island. I don't know who actually claims it. I don't know that it's its own country. I think it's part of China or Hong Kong. And then we just opened up Japan, which is amazing, kind of as an NFR or not for resale, kind of a customer base. Um, and then we're opening up UAE, like Dubai, next month. So we have those two, but we have more on the docket. So some of the countries are going to be coming on as sort of customer bases. Others will be open for business so people can sign up and join. Japan, there's a way for them to sign up. So if you know people in Japan, please reach out to them. So it's going to be pretty exciting. We got a lot going on right now.
We have a lot going on, and I think it would be very hard to duplicate what Maureen just said about the whole process of how this is made. But you can say, if somebody's just like, isn't this just expensive salt water? You can be like, would we be in this many countries if it were just salt water? Would we have that many patents on our product? And just refer
Right.
them to this video so that they can hear it from Maureen
Yeah.
direct.
This video, it's so funny because most of us who are medical professionals come in kind of kicking and screaming, and a lot of us are trying to prove it wrong, or um, not wanting to risk our reputations on it. But it's amazing how many of us stay. And we're like, oh my gosh, people need to know about this. So, and there's 100, I think that's up to 153 short video testimonials on real redox results, people telling their own stories about what has happened in their lives, what has changed, how they've responded to it. And you can't listen to those. You can listen to a couple and think, oh, these people are lying, they're exaggerating, whatever. You can't listen to 10, 20, 30 and think these people are making this up or this is a placebo. And y'all, it's not a placebo when your animals respond. Animals they're not there to please anybody. They're not going to give you a story. They're either going to improve or they're not. And we have so many animal stories. So listen, if you came in, kind of wondering if there was something here, give it a shot. Take it yourself. Get it on people around you. See what it can do for them. It will make every single thing you do for yourself or every single thing you do for your clients or patients work better, because this is foundational. This is upstream. This has to be fixed in order for anything else to do its job properly. So I just need to take a really good look at this, give it a try, and share it with the people that you love and care about.
Awesome. And let me ask you a couple more questions. You keep making me think of more. Can you talk about the taste? So you were like, Joan drank it,
Delicious.
soaked her hand, and it was gross. Like, talk about Joaquin and you and
Yeah. When we got started on it, it tasted like YMCA pool water. I don't know if any of y'all took swimming lessons at the YMCA, a little bit too heavy on the chlorine. And I was like, it tastes like a little bit like chlorinated salt water. Well, it's not. You're tasting the chloride ion. And it was, it wasn't terrible. It didn't taste great. It wasn't something I was looking forward to drinking. But my husband, oh my God, I mean, he was like rolling around on the floor, just like a total drama queen, which was out of character for him. I was like, man up, this is ridiculous. So my son and I are both like, stop it. And then we went to a conference where they were saying the more off balance, the more toxic you are, the worse it's going to taste. And they said it's a little bit of a hard sell because the people who really need it is the one who it tastes the worst to. And so my husband felt totally vindicated. He was like, see? I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. I've never heard of anything like that. But we have found that even for me, even after 12 years of drinking this, if I go out, if I eat really badly, or I say I'm drinking alcohol, and maybe, have too much, the next morning I'll drink it and I will know, because it will have a very pungent taste to me. And I'll be like, oof, okay, I got to get my body back into balance. And so I usually will drink more, and then it will go right back to tasting, to me, it really doesn't taste like much of anything anymore. Maybe a tiny bit of like salt water. I really have lost that taste, and people do. as you take it. So if you've been trying it and you find it to be kind of foul, a couple of things we find in our house, the sports pouches, these were made because we have a lot of athletes taking it, a lot of even Olympic and extreme sports people that use it. It's got a one-way valve, so you can drink from it all day long. Because it's closed, you're not smelling it as much. So a lot of your taste comes from your sense of smell. So that helps. Chilling it for a lot of people helps. I've never bothered to do that. And my husband hasn't either. He's perfectly fine. He drinks at least 8 ounces, sometimes 16 ounces a day. So those are a couple of things. Sometimes you can just let it sit for a minute and the chloride ions will settle down and then it will lose a little bit of that taste. But mostly it's as you're taking it, as your body starts to kind of recalibrate and balance itself, that pungent flavor is going to go away.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a great book. It's called One Disease, Redox, and Balance. And the premise is every single health challenge, it's just because there's an imbalance of your reductants and oxidants. While you drink it, like, I'm sorry if it tastes bad, sure. And then it's not that you're getting used to the flavor, it's that you're getting healthier. So it'll taste more like water. That was awesome, Maureen. Thank you. Okay. I promised my husband I would share something tonight. He's been working on something. Somebody had asked me last week. They asked me about one of our little products, and I'm not going to go into all of this tonight because we're already over the time. But we have other products. We've got skincare, we've got nutritional supplements, and we have this. This is these are for targeted things. So like this is for energy. This is for your mind. You're going to think better, remember better. This is Radiance. It's a collagen support product. It's great for your hair, your nails, your skin. And this elevates your mood, helps you sleep. Somebody asked me about this one. It's called Redox Energy. And they wanted to know, is there caffeine in it? And I'm like, yeah, there's caffeine in it, but let me explain. So there are 80 milligrams of caffeine. It's far less than what you would find in a cup of coffee, but you're not going to feel like you're having caffeine for a couple of reasons. All of our products in here come from like natural foods, and we get the caffeine sourced from a plant called guarana. It's this funny looking plant, looks like a bunch of eyeballs, really. And since it's coming from a plant, the plant has tannins. That means that the caffeine gets released over a very long period, maybe 5 hours. So you're not going to have a whole bunch of energy and then crash. It's sustained. And then caffeine, it's a vasoconstrictor. So your blood vessels will constrict, and that can make you feel anxious or jittery. But our scientists are brilliant, and they put in another funny looking plant called the Alpinia galanga, which is a vasodilator. So it kind of neutralizes the blood vessels. And I spent a long time like just going into all the different details of this thing. And I wrote out a response and I showed it to my husband, and it kind of piqued his curiosity. And he's like, I'm going to play with this. And he made a presentation about it. So you guys are going to see the premiere of it. Beth, can I share my screen? Oh, you're letting me already. Thank you. Okay. I hope this works. Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another
It's like a
deep dive.
podcast.
Yeah. Today we're looking
Can you hear this?
Redox Energy.
Okay. This is something that a listener, Laura Zentmeyer, sent to us, actually.
We were pretty interested in it.
Yeah, really interested.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's this drink that's supposed to give you energy for like 5 hours
Yeah.
and no crash.
That's the big claim, right?
Yeah.
That's the holy grail of energy drinks.
Totally, yeah.
Everyone's looking for that sustained energy without the negative side effects.
Yeah.
And it's all natural ingredients.
Right.
But in the materials Laura sent, it says it uses 80 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay.
From guarana.
Interesting.
So that's less than a cup of coffee usually.
All right.
But what is it about guarana that's so special?
Well, guarana does have caffeine in it, but the way it's released in the body is very different from coffee.
Okay.
Think of coffee as like a firework, right?
Okay.
Big burst of energy really quick, and then it fades out pretty quickly.
You crash.
Yeah, you crash hard. Guarana is more like a slow burning fire, and that's because of the tannins in guarana.
Tannins.
Yeah, they act like a time release mechanism.
Oh.
So the caffeine enters your system gradually over about 5 hours
Wow.
instead of all at once.
Okay, so you get like this steady energy and you don't get the jitters.
That's the idea.
Oh, is it the jitters from coffee?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, that's because caffeine is a vasoconstrictor,
Vasoconstricting.
meaning it tightens your blood vessels.
Okay.
So imagine your blood vessels are like highways, right?
Okay.
And caffeine comes along and narrows those roads so everything gets a little bit backed up.
Oh,
And that can lead to feeling anxious and jittery,
I see.
like you're kind of on edge.
So if this Redox Energy has caffeine from guarana, how does it prevent that?
Right. Well, that's where the other ingredients come in.
Okay.
They've included Alpinia galanga and L-theanine in the formula, and these act as vasodilator.
Vasodilators.
Yeah, the opposite of vasoconstrictors.
Okay.
So they actually widen the blood vessels.
So they counteract the caffeine.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
Interesting. Alpinia galanga. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool ingredient.
What else does it do?
Well, one of the things it does is increase dopamine levels in the brain.
Dopamine.
Yeah,
The motivation chemical.
exactly. It's involved in motivation, focus, all those good things.
Is that part of how Redox Energy is supposed to help with mental clarity?
That's one possible mechanism, yeah.
Wow.
Studies have shown that Alpinia galanga can actually enhance what's called visuospatial performance,
Visuospatial performance.
like remembering where you parked your car,
Oh.
navigating a new city, those kinds of things.
Okay.
But it also has this other really interesting benefit.
What's that?
It increases the body's own antioxidant power.
Okay, now remind me, what are antioxidants good for again?
Okay, so imagine your cells are constantly being attacked by these things called free radicals.
Right.
And free radicals cause damage, kind of like rust on a car.
Yeah.
Antioxidants are like little warriors that fight off that rust.
They protect the cells.
Exactly.
And so this Alpinia galanga is increasing antioxidants.
Yeah, it actually increases the production of these really powerful enzymes like superoxide dismutase catalase glutathione.
Wow, those are big words.
I know, right? But think of them as like the leaders of your antioxidant army,
Okay.
and they protect your cells from damage, especially of the mitochondria, the
Mitochondria.
powerhouses of the cell.
Yeah, the energy factories.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's protecting the energy factories.
Right. So you can see how this all ties back to Redox Energy's claim of sustained energy.
Yeah, I'm starting to get the picture. What else is in this stuff?
Okay, so another key ingredient is acetyl L-carnitine.
It's a mouthful. I know.
Yeah.
But this is actually a substance that's naturally found in your body.
Oh, wow.
And it acts like a delivery truck, transporting fuel to the mitochondria,
Fuel meaning.
fatty acids.
Oh, so it's giving the energy factories the fuel they need to actually produce energy.
Precise. Then you've also got ginseng in there, which is known for its antioxidant properties.
Right.
And a trio of B vitamins, B3, B6, and B12.
Ah, the classic B vitamins.
Exactly. These are essential for energy production.
Yeah.
And they also provide additional cell protection.
So they're really hitting it from all sides.
They seem to.
Now, Laura also sent us some stuff on gene regulation and telomeres.
Oh, yeah, that gets a little more complex.
Yeah.
Essentially, Redox Energy is suggesting that it can actually influence how your genes function.
Wow.
They call it supporting healthy gene expression.
Healthy gene expression.
And they also claim it offers something called cytoprotection.
Cytoprotection.
Yeah, which basically means helping cells adjust and recover from stress.
So like resilience for your cells.
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
Wow. And then there's the telomere thing.
Right, telomeres.
Now those are the protective caps on our DNA, right?
Exactly.
And I've heard that longer telomeres are associated with longevity.
That's the current thinking.
So is that what Redox Energy is implying, that it can actually lengthen telomeres?
It seems like they're going in that direction, yeah.
Wow.
They're really positioning this as more than just an energy drink. It's
Yeah.
a cellular health and maybe even an anti-aging product.
Like a bold claim,
It is.
but they're approaching it in this really multifaceted way,
Yeah,
like working with the body's natural systems.
it's an interesting approach for sure.
All right, so to recap, we've got Redox Energy, this drink that's supposed to give you energy for hours,
Mm,
avoid the caffeine crash.
hmm.
It's got this blend of natural ingredients that's designed to work with your body's systems.
Right.
And they're even suggesting that it could have benefits for cognitive function, cellular health, and maybe even longevity. Pretty fascinating stuff.
It is. Yeah.
And you know, Laura posts a weekly YouTube video where she goes over all this stuff and more.
Really.
Yeah, and you can get notified of these weekly YouTubes by texting ASEA, that's ASEA, to 802-203-8200. Or you can just head over to laurazentmeyer.com.
Wow.
Right. Until next time, stay curious.
And energize.
Exactly. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.
And there we go. So it's fun being married to a nerd. Who knew all that was going to happen just because somebody asked me if there was caffeine in a product? Okay, so there's that. And how about we stop recording? And then I think there's a couple of questions for Maureen, if that's okay with you, Maureen. Can you stop recording, Beth?